We seem to be living in the day one stealth patch. If you're not aware what that is, within the video gaming industry, there seems to be this interesting new trend where a video game advertises itself on fan service, and then just once it releases, it adds a stealth patch that removes all the fan service. So it's a similar thing with what's happening to Twitter. Now, Twitter was one of the first social media companies ever in human history to decide that misgendering is wrong and it's punishable with banning your account. Right? Like, it's something so dangerous, it's something so criminal that they cannot have it on their platform. And many people, including Jordan Peterson, articulated that this is for the first time that you are compelled to speak, right? So it's kind of like being in front of a judge. You have to say your honor. Like, you're forced to say this. It's like being in front of the king. You have to say your majesty. Like you're compelled. Like, it's protocol, right? Hence, on Twitter, you're also compelled. Like, you're forced to say the pronouns that a person has in their bio. And there was a lot of backlash against it at the time. Again, like, it was something new. It was radical thinking. Tim Pool didn't like it, and he was in an interview with the policymaker at Twitter. It was a lady that, I believe she was a lawyer, Vijaya, her name was, right? Like he had this interview with Jack Dorsey and the person responsible for making this policy. And she couldn't really defend it. Like she couldn't really articulate it. And it remained a thing all the way up until Elon Musk took over. Now, when Elon Musk took over, he said, like, no, this policy is ridiculous. We're not going to have it. And he even doubled down. He said that the word cis is now going to be considered hate speech on Twitter. And this caused a lot of us hurt and also funny situations because when the video game Hogwarts came out, a lot of individuals were busy harassing VTubers because they wanted to play the game, because the game is giving J.K. Rowling royalties, and J.K. Rowling is the misgenderer. However, they would use the Twitter platform in order to organize those harassment campaigns. And Twitter was owned by Elon Musk, which was also an evil misgenderer. A necromancer, right? Like, dead naming people from beyond the grave. It's horrible. So, that was interesting. It's like, okay, you don't like this millionaire, but you like this trillionaire instead. All right. Fast forward till today, and we notice that the policy targeting dead naming and the necromancers has been returned. Now, what I find interesting, and this is my personal belief, due to the fact that when you watch the initial Tim Pool interview and the lady that instituted the policy couldn't really defend it and didn't really was able to articulate about why it's even important. And now seeing that it's happening on Twitter when Elon Musk, like the owner of the platform, they don't have a board or anything, like he literally owns Twitter, who had like such interesting comments in the past and doubled down by making the word cis hateful, is now doing this. What I believe is happening is that they are being compelled by outside pressure. There's no other explanation. Now, I don't know who's making the pressure. Is it the government, like we saw in the Twitter files? I mean, it's possible. Is it activist groups? Also possible. But what I do understand is that they are aware of what the user base thinks. They are aware of what most people think about this. And they're doing it anyway. Now, when it comes to what the user base thinks, well, when they decided to not have this policy, you notice how, like, no one really left. I mean, all the journalists were still there, or the corporations were still there. No one closed their account over this. And it doesn't surprise me, because this wasn't even a thing until 3 or 4 years ago. Like, this is a brand new concept that's coming from the Anglosphere, and is being pushed on the rest of the world. There's also several tier systems on Twitter. Like, for example, there is this thing called Muslim Twitter, right? And when I initially heard about it, I was like, well, it's maybe like another app. But no, like, Muslim Twitter refers to people from the Middle East that speak in Arabic and they have their own alphabet. They misgender all the time and they don't get punished. They also create high levels of misogynismus. This was also during 2016, where if you disagreed with a woman, you are the highest level of misogynist. Like, if you disagreed with Hillary Clinton's policy, you, according to social media, you are almost like a wife beater. Like it was just the same level of gravitas, the same level of punishment should have been enacted. Oh, you disagree with Hillary Clinton? Well, you shouldn't have an account on social media. So basically, there is a two-tier system. So if you're from the Anglosphere, this is inflicted upon you. And the question is why? Like, why is it all of a sudden so important? Like, throughout human history, throughout the tens of thousands of years of recorded history, this was never a thing. But now, in the last couple of years, not only is it a thing, but it's like a criminal offense in some countries if you misgender. Like, all of a sudden, we realize just a huge harm was being committed. I'm surprised that the military doesn't weaponize this. You know, that the Ukrainian soldiers don't misgender the Russians over the trench lines. Maybe they can have, like, more victories, you know, like they can end the stalemate and they can push back. I mean, you need to consider it, because I'm being told that it's so deadly, it needs to be criminalized. I'm not kidding. Read the Canadian hate speech law, and in the UK as well. It's horrible. So why is it? And my assessment of the situation is that it wants to make people hypersensitive to woke issues, right? So, like, basically, if there is something that can make you lose your account, if there is something that can end you up getting fined or imprisoned, then people have to go. It's like, well, okay, so, like, how do I not get offensive? And then you start reading CNN and The Guardian, and you have to keep up to touch. You know, you got to go on social media and listen to what the progressive activists have to say, and read Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility, and get educated and learn about microaggressions and how to make your hair, because if your hair has dreads, then that's a problem, and make absolutely sure that you speak the correct speech and you use all the buzzwords and the platitudes and the inclusivity and the equity, and like that is the purpose, is to get people to be hypersensitive to issues that they deem are important. Like, for example, how to make your hair. Don't have dreads if you don't have the correct pedigree, the correct heritage. Ask your mother if she has any type of ethnicities in the family to see if you're allowed to have your hair that way. Like this is the Anglosphere religion, which is being pushed on the rest of the world, not through debate and trying to convince people that they're right, but through enforcement. It's like, this is how it's done from now on. If you don't do it, there is punishment. There's no discussion, no debate. So according to Twitter, even though they have this rule, they're making it very difficult to be enforced, much to the dismay and ass hurt of several activists. And they're basically saying that the victim has to file the complaint. So, like, if you see someone getting misgendered out in the wild, that is not enough to trigger Twitter's misgendering policy. It has to be the victim, like the person that has suffered the oppression of seeing the letters appear on their computer screen. That is the only person in the world capable of filing the complaint. Right. So, I mean, it's important, right? Whatever. I think, like, YouTube is starting to do it as well. Because you notice, like, all social media companies are acting in lockstep. Like, that is also interesting. You know, I come from a version of the internet that was more free. It was more like the Wild West. It was dangerous. And dangerous was fun. It was like parkouring, you know, it was like skateboarding. It was exciting. And you had, like, various chat rooms. And you had, like, various forums and blogs and places where people went. And they all had different rules. Like, sure, there were some common rules, like respect the moderators, you know, ambiguous stuff like that. Don't spam, don't impersonate. But other than that, like, different places have different rules. Like, there was a rule where you would go on a forum and it's like only discussions about video games allowed. And then you'd go on another forum and it was completely different rules. Usually they didn't even have that many rules, to be honest, right? But now all the social media, it's almost like they have the copy-paste terms of service. It's literally the same rules everywhere. Which, again, goes to show that my private company can't do whatever it wants. My private company has to do what the activist wants. And the question is, like, why does the activist can do whatever they want? Why can't there be pressure against the activist? Why does the activist not have to answer to public opinion? Why can't there be backlash against the... Like, who does the activist think they are? Right? Like, this is the question that has to be answered. we're going to see what's going to happen. But as you can see, yeah, so Glad, senior director of social media safety, said that they had pushed back strongly on the platform decision to remove its initial policy against necromancy. Dead naming, it's necromancy. It's one of the changes in content moderation ethics under Musk's leadership that civil rights groups and other tech advocacy groups have criticized. Okay, so apparently I was actually correct. I didn't read the article, but it is pressure from the outside. Tim Pool, The Quartering, many others decided to stop supporting Twitter. And I kind of understand why, because it's false advertising. It's interesting. If Musk would have left this alone, no one would have complained today. You know, it would have been like, oh, well, it's one of the vestiges that has been grandfathered and inherited from the previous Twitter. But because of the flip-flop, now he pissed the left and the right. I still think like Twitter is a more free speech platform than others, but yeah, it's going to matter like how much they cave to the activists, because the activists want everything the same. All the social media platforms have to be the same, and if they're the same, then there is no choice. And if there's no choice, then why am I using Twitter? Right. Let me know what you guys think, though, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.